Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful guest today is Marisa Thomas. We're going to be talking about the power to lead. Now, I always say a great leader actually creates other leaders, but how do we lead in the first place? Where is the power? She's the founder of Door Self-Effect LLC and describes herself as a constructive optimist. I love that. I love optimistic people. She's an ex-executive coach and speaker who helps leaders preserve, curate, and optimize the 5 key energy sources that they inherently possess to elevate organization outcomes and experiences personal fulfillment. She journeys and individual organizations through a proven methodology outlined in her book, The Power to Lead, to unlock the perfectly imperfect hero leader within. Leaders learn to harness the foundations of balancing their energy and optimizing their unique, authentic leadership power, resulting in increased employee retention and productivity, improved decision-making, and sustainable growth. Ultimately, the goal is for every leader to live their best life. That, I would say whether you're in business or not, you're a leader of your life, right? So I think that's kind of before you go and do what you do in business, what are you doing in your own life? Because that same person needs to be everywhere, even though you may wear different hats, personal hat, business hat, lover hat, whatever the hat is. The consistency of who you are as a person shows what kind of leader you really are, isn't it? Welcome to the show, Han.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I don't know whether there's any more to say now. You said it all so perfectly. Thank you for having me on the show. I feel blessed to be able to speak with you and share some of my wisdom with your audience, and hopefully be able to connect further later down the line.
Yeah, and leadership, when we talk about leadership, people immediately kind of look at dictators and people in politics. So, some of the, true leaders in the world that are leading the way, they think, well, I can never be like them. But we can all be a leader, as I said, in our own lives, in our own industry. And as I said, also a good leader creates leadership in other people, others to step up. But what is truly the real definition of leadership? Because I feel it's being misconstrued.
Yeah. And I like to think of leadership less of less about what the word itself
Mm,
um, suggests, right? And I think you alluded to that a little bit first, Sarah, which is, it feels like it's you're standing in front and you have people behind you and
mm,
you're showing the way. Well, actually, I think leadership is really the opposite of that. It's about setting the foundation and the platform whereby your most significant intentions, goals,
mm,
vision
mm.
can come to fruition, not just for yourself, but for everybody around you. You are serving something that's greater than yourself.
Yeah.
And that last part is what I like to
Mm.
have as the definition of a leader, which is serving something bigger than yourself.
And that's how you incite leadership in others, because it is optimism, it is motivation, it is inclusivity, it is teamwork, right? There's a great responsibility in being a leader. You're the conductor of this orchestra, but how this orchestra plays, how strong and significant they feel in each of their instruments is really up to the leader and how they bring it out on other people.
Oh, sorry, you hit on so many things that lead to the inspiration of, the work that I do and the book that I've written and the industries that I help to nurture the greatness that's inside each of the
Mm,
individuals in their organization. And this is, it really comes down to um, all of that pressure. If you think about it, if you visualize, the weight that sits on a leader's shoulders and all directions
mm.
from which they are pulled and expected to be able to, I click my fingers there, expected to turn on a dime
Yes.
um, for any decision that needs to be made, any storm that's hitting the organization, any event that might be impacting a person on their team or in their organization, or things that are happening at a global level. You
Yeah.
think of the COVID pandemic,
Hmm.
and imagine in those moments that the systems and everything that over years organizations have built suddenly just came to an end,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We had to start all over. That's huge pressure. And what I find is, and why I love what I do so much, is that overwhelm,
Hmm.
that space of feeling like you can't see the wood for the trees,
Yes, yes, yes.
is really something that while you might feel out of control at any point in time, you actually have a ton of capability to always be in control. You're
Mm,
always in control of the choices that you make, no matter where you're standing and what situations you're facing at any given time.
mm.
They might not be the best choices that
Yeah,
you would want, but you own the outcome and you
yeah.
own how you're going to react.
And kind of envisioning a choreographer. He has a vision in mind of how he wants the dance to be. But then he looks at the dancers that he has and knows that they're not capable of doing that. Their forte is this. So, what we have to do is be flexible. I call it being the willow tree.
Mhm.
Letting those branches go whichever way the wind blows, and they're not going to break because they're flexible. And I think is that sometimes we have an idea, I want the company to go this, I want to go company to do that. And then you look at in this arena, I can't
Mhm.
do it in this time period. I can't do that with these kind of people. I can't do it. Well, you don't throw away the idea. You
Mhm.
you adapt the idea to the time, to the situation, to the people, and inevitably you end up with a much better dance than you actually
Mhm.
ever anticipated because of your flexibility. And in that flexibility, you're giving respect to others to say, well, what do you think? How would you do this move? And it makes them feel empowered to feel I'm a part of this equation and I'm not just being dictated to.
Yeah, yeah. I love the choice of words that you use there, Sarah. The choreography speaks to me and on a much more deeper level. As a child, um, I found academics very difficult to
Mhm.
pay attention to. I'm naturally a very curious and creative person, and quite frankly, I got bored.
Yeah.
Um, and and out of the boredom, I realized, well, I've got to pay attention to this. How do I pay attention? And then I realized when I was paying attention, it wasn't easy. It
Yes.
wasn't easy for me. And so I turned to the arts,
Mm.
um, in that in that kind of desperation of trying to find an answer
Hmm.
where I felt like I belonged. I felt
Yes.
like I had found a home.
Hmm.
And the interesting thing that came out of that all of those skills in acting and in dance, and I was particularly focused on dance and did my major
Hmm.
in dance and choreography, um, you learn so many skills of
Hmm.
how to listen between the lines,
Yes.
see the creativity in the people around you.
Hmm.
Um, you realize that the placement of the scenery and the lighting and the individuals, the words that they may use, the music that you choose, the direction of the flow of movement, the
Yes.
relationship between each of them,
Hmm.
each of the performers on the stage makes a huge difference
Hmm.
for how it connects
Hmm.
to your audience
Yeah.
and how you can then relate a dialogue, a story, an emotion, whatever that might be. And that's what great leaders have.
Hmm.
Great leaders have this aptitude to be able to tune into and harness that energy and that power that each individual uniquely has and builds it into the environment
Hmm.
in which it is placed
Yes.
and gives culture
Hmm.
by setting an environment that speaks to here's what we stand for.
Yes.
Here we are going to create for the good of the customers that we serve.
Hmm.
Any organization or any leader is leading a group of people, is leading an agenda
Hmm.
in order to impact someone else. And how that impacts and how they connect and how they relate to that has a compounding and cascading effect.
Hmm.
You want to do it right. So all of those things become vitally important of
Yeah.
how you bring them together and create that choreography that leads to that standing ovation, that
Hmm.
people walk out the door, that they
Yes.
stop talking about it, that they use some of that and they say, speak the lines, or they do the movement, or they sing the song
Hmm.
and somebody else picks it up and starts as well, and it just goes somewhere else
Yeah.
that you didn't intend. That's the power of good leadership.
And the power of really showing that leadership with the fireworks behind you right there was perfect. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because, I'm always making a movie in my head. It's just the way my head works. And last night I was making a movie of a conversation with two companies trying to join. And it's just the way I work. And I get deep into dialogue and the scene and everything, the smell, the touch, the taste. I'm in the movie. But it was actually interesting because it was really about a man who created a business for 50 years and now was selling it, but did not want to lose the legacy, not just the legacy of the name, but what it meant. And what it meant in the people that were there. Are you going to honor the people that are already there? Are you going to honor the customers and all the service that they've received through the years? Yes, you're going to bring in your flavor, but are you going to change it up completely? That what are you buying? You're changing it so much that there isn't anything left of that legacy. And I think that is kind of when we're looking at business today, there's always companies that are being bought up or having to pivot or change and bringing someone in. And I see so many times beautiful organizations that have been around 100 years and they bring in a young innovative to change it up. And they change it up so much it loses the identity and people disconnect with it and its history and everything that it has been. And the next thing you know, it's closed. So we have to recognize, if we're bringing in different choreography, does it suit the audience that will already come? Does it suit the players that are already there? How can we take them to the next level without losing the integrity of what it stands for? And I think so many people step into leadership roles trying to be what the bosses want them to be without actually understanding the essence of what's there and how to tap into that and be able to take it, cohesively to that next level, to that next advancement without losing the integrity of what it stands for.
Mm. Comes down, Sarah, to the simplicity of use what you've got first.
Yes.
And I don't know if, I had young children, and I remember always watching Bernstein Bears, and it was always I think there was a line in there that was something around, this concept of, always make the best of what the day has to offer
Yes.
to you. I don't think they were the exact words, but that was
Yeah.
the essence of what they were saying. And I think that's true. Um, that's true with any
Mm.
organization, regardless of change. I do think that there is a balance, though, that, change does happen and
Yes.
the environment around us does change. It's
Hmm.
about what are you connecting to?
Yeah.
You might be doing something different, or you might need to
Mm.
evolve and do, level it up and
Hmm.
take it to the next level. Let's face it, technology
Hmm.
has just made change like
Lightning rod.
it is a lightning rod. I liken it to because I love superhero
Mhm.
movies. I think there's so much that we can learn from them. They've got
Yes.
the best lines, best quotes.
Yes.
I really take from
And that's
them.
such a
So,
symbol of hope and possibilities, right? Yes.
yeah. But what's lovely about them is that you see colossal failures
Yes.
but for the right reason, for hey, we're not yet functioning in the right way, but we've
Mm.
made a choice because of the intent, the vision, the thing that we're going after is the right thing. And it teaches us that you have to embrace failure, especially when we're going this fast.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Life is like the speed force. You are like Flash.
Yes.
And it's easy to be running so fast, so hard all the time that trying to make mindful,
Hmm.
important decisions can elude you.
Need
And
a
believe,
little of Wakanda in there, right?
yeah,
Really
yeah,
great advancements of technology there, but pausing for a moment in how to use it,
mhm.
right? And whom to use it for. But if we're like Flash and you're just running to the end, we're missing all the ingredients along the way.
That's right. That's right. Wakanda is a really great example. I actually use that example in my book as we're talking about culture and the different blends. At the surface, it shows a blend of different traditions and
Hmm.
cultural expectation just blended together with technology,
Yes,
and how it's not one or the other.
exactly,
Is
exactly.
together and that is the abundance mindset. That
Mm,
is it's not that the past wasn't important. Some of those traditions, some of what the legacy
hmm.
of
Hmm.
how that culture was built is still at its core. It still sits at the bottom like sediment that really is where all the nutrients are,
Hmm.
drives that passion. um
The compass, right? The core
yeah,
compass, yeah.
it's that identity, but the way
Hmm.
in which you achieve that identity unfolds and changes. And and that's why it's really, really important that culture is really mindfully thought through
Hmm.
in any organization, whether it be at the organizational level, how that translates to individual teams, how it translates to your hiring decisions.
Hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that you're looking for everybody that fits the same, you
Yes.
know, you know,
There's different
it,
cogs in the wheel, right? You're looking for a different
that's
cog
right.
or
I
a
think
different wheel.
sometimes people think, well, if they're a cultural fit, and you hear
Mm,
that
yes.
terminology used such a lot, if they're a cultural fit, it means that they exhibit similar traits and
Hmm.
come with similar experiences. Actually, no, they
Hmm.
don't. And they shouldn't,
Mm,
because you won't succeed. You won't sustain as an organization. That diversity of thought needs to span all scale, all spectrums of the scale.
yes.
Those who are conservative and those who are very creative and optimistic, you need to balance each other out.
Yeah.
And
I'm a true colors coach, the four key personality traits. And I
mm,
remember when I first discovered that, when I first took the course, it suddenly just became an epiphany for me of understanding why my family and I don't see the same picture. And it's, what I always say with podcasts, you have book clubs. I say, have a podcast club. Listen to the podcast, take notes of what it means to you, then share your opinions. And now you're going to get different thoughts and different opinions and different perspectives and understandings. And then you're all going to walk away with a wholer picture. We need those diverse personalities because each one of them see things from a different angle. And the more we look at it from all angles, the bigger the picture becomes clearer.
yeah, yeah, absolutely spot on. Um, I I remember it made me think of a story that I often share with clients around this notion of riding a wave,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
And it's easy to ride the waves that have always been there, and it's easy to follow the waves, especially when you're young in
Yeah.
your in your career or in your chosen path,
Right. In
right?
your
Because you're
discovery.
learning.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're going through this, okay, I'm not quite sure what I stand for. It keeps changing year on year,
Yes. Yeah.
day to day, and that's okay. It's about an exploration, and it's about
Hmm.
taking the journey, and the learning never ends.
No,
And
nor should
so
it.
no, it shouldn't.
No.
But at a certain point, those waves that we travel can either help us or hinder us.
Mm.
Because as we're learning and as we're catching those waves that are lifting our skill sets, giving us new competencies, giving us new perspectives, we get lost in what we're all about,
Hmm.
what purpose is. And I think good leaders can see that. When
Mm.
there's organizations that uh, kind of thrive on being able to say, hey, we've got great tenure in our organization. They've led this department for 2 decades or whatever. I get a little bit uncomfortable with that,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because I worry for its sustainability,
Ah.
and I worry about how are you bringing new perspectives in, and how are you creating opportunities for those individuals to take what they have built here,
Mm.
continue to learn and grow themselves, and impact another area of your organization, or bring some learnings from others in a space that maybe they haven't
Yes.
um, too much
Yes.
time in. And I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
I
Very. Yeah.
think
Very.
too much of it,
Yeah.
too often, is unhealthy.
Yeah.
But I
Tsunami
think,
rather than a wave, right? Yeah.
correct. Yeah, I think there needs to be an encouragement to take new waves. And I think that as an individual, you as an individual need to start thinking about it any season of your life, wherever you're standing, wherever you're sitting right now, the environment that you're in, the culture, the society that you're in, and the work that you're doing. You need to ask yourself the question, what do I want my legacy to be?
Mm.
What's my vision for me right now?
Yeah.
What's
What's my
important?
why? Hmm.
Yeah. And you know what? There's really easy questions to ask, but really hard to answer.
Exactly. Exactly, because this is why this network is called Self-Discovery Wisdom. We're discovering the wisdom that is accessible to us. We're discovering the wisdom that we gain from experience. And again, we've got to be able to ride that wave. And even when the waves and the water become still, that's all very nice and peaceful, and we can enjoy that, but it's not productive. The waves need to be coming up against the shore. We need to have those waves, but we don't want it to be a tsunami and wash everything away. So it's all about that balance and paying attention. And there's so many people I know, and my son-in-law in one, where the cap of growth in his business, he works for the government, um,
Mhm.
he can't go any further because the seniors above him, and he's got to wait for them to retire. But they're not open to the change that is necessary because it's city development in order to keep up with the development. And consequently, here in Canada, what we're having a problem with right now is such a lack of housing because for so long things got held up in bureaucracy, held up in red tape, held up in this and that. And now we have a crisis. And we've got to make sure that in whatever business we're in, you're now in this comfortable position, right? In the ivory tower. If you're not willing to listen to the people that are going to replace you one day, right? If you're not working with them to keep that productivity, there may not be anything there for them to replace because the whole company may go by the wayside. So, however comfortable we are at that top, we have to pay attention to the enthusiasm and the creative vision of others and know when it's applicable, when to support it, when it's a great pipe dream, it's not ready for now, but let's keep it up there on the vision board and not just get settled in your ways and go, no, no, we've already done it this way. I don't want to go down that road. If we don't go down that road, what road is there for you in the future?
Yeah. We can get too tied
Mm,
to the decisions that we've made that have created success.
yeah.
But the word that needs to sit in front of it is sustained.
Yes.
Right? If you gain that ultimate goal, and you're creating a swell of excitement and serving a community that really enjoys the product that
hmm
you have created and provided to them, but you're not being mindful and using the skill sets of others to look ahead, see where the world is going, see where the next generation is headed. How sustainable is that product, and how sustainable is the model of connecting that product
Yes.
with your audience going to be tomorrow?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the piece. That's
Mm.
the sit in front of, and constantly figuring out where that moving target, because it always is. They're
Yes.
never a destination that you've hit, that you always stay there. It's a
Yeah.
destination for right now.
Yeah.
And then you need to look to, okay, now what next?
Yeah. Be
Where's the
ahead of
next
yourself.
destination going?
Yeah. Innovation is always needed. I mean, let's take AI for now. You've got such mixed feelings over there. You got AI is going to take over our jobs. AI is evil. And then other people, I love AI. It takes such a burden off my plate in X, Y, and Z. And we've got to understand it's a technology. And so many people resisted technology when it first came out until they got acclimatized to it and realized, it's actually a great asset. And again, with anything, anything can be evil if it's used in an evil manner. But when we look at it and go, it's not about what it can replace, it's about what can it enhance, which frees people up to step up into another degree or another something. It's if we put fear in our way, we're never going to be able to grow. Instead, AI is here to stay. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. So how do we actually use it in a way, ethically, in a way that doesn't replace jobs, but enhances the ability in the job and helps the company and the leadership grow? Be creative with it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love that. We were just talking, there was a group of us just talking about the whole, notion of what people are thinking about AI, good or bad. And again, it's not a choice, right?
Mm,
You don't have to choose. It's
yes.
like everything. I'm going to take it right down to its basics and simplicity. It's like when you overindulge in a food that is
Yes.
scientifically good for you.
Mm,
If you overindulge, it's not going to be that good for you.
right. Yes.
Right?
Excess is not the
Yeah.
best. Yes.
So
Moderation.
it's about laying the capabilities out there and
Mm,
knowing and putting the work in to understand, well, where's it useful? Where's it not?
yeah.
Where could it where could it start having diminishing, returns
Mm,
if we overuse it, if we overpower that? And you're gonna step and
yeah.
make some mistakes. You're gonna
Mm,
in order to figure that out, you're
mm,
gonna have to push the needle a little bit further than
mm,
probably is the right place
yeah.
to stop.
Tread on a few toes, right? Where you're
The
learning the new dance.
thing
Yes.
the important thing is that you try and you
Yeah.
lean in and you discover, and then you create answers out
Mm,
of that discovery that work for you and for your organization and for what you are there for.
mm,
And when you can look at all of that data and use the 80-20 rule, because there's never a
mm,
100% right
mhm,
answer,
mhm,
is
mhm.
80% of what we are putting use cases for the use of AI helping us?
Mhm.
Now, are we getting the benefit? Are we creating danger by going this far? Well, we've got data to tell us here's where that line gets drawn.
Yeah.
And we'll keep reevaluating it because
Mhm,
today it might be okay, but tomorrow it might not.
mhm,
And that's okay. It's about having the systems in place to choose
mhm.
what you do, how you do it, where you place it, where you use it, that best suits the needs of
Yes.
your organization and your human force.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
I always
just another
say,
tool. Mhm.
yeah, words matter. I hate
Mm.
the word workforce.
Yes.
It's your human force. You're serving your
Yeah.
human to do
Yes.
the work that you want to be produced that connects with your audience.
I want to talk about introverts and extroverts because everybody assumes that a leader is extroverted. And that introverts, well, I can't do that. I can't get up in front of people, that's not my comfortable space. But there's so much creativity in that introvert. How does a good leader bring that out in an introvert so they do feel comfortable stepping into that more extroverted side of them that they may never know they had?
Mm. Yeah, it's a wonderful question. I love that question. And again, I don't think there's any right or wrong. I
Right.
think
It's technique.
history, yeah, I think history
Mm,
has told, and especially through the 80s, if you think about, a lot of the media and books and things that were out there really elevated those who were naturally extroverts at being successful.
mhm,
That you needed to voice your opinion. You need to have character. Okay, what does
mhm.
it mean to have character? Right? It doesn't make you any less successful
Yes.
as a leader. It's just your style.
Yeah.
But it was an image that was out
Hmm.
there. So we start connecting an expected norm
Hmm.
towards what makes a good leader and what doesn't make a good leader if you are introvert versus extrovert. And I think the myth that needs to be busted out there is that every good leader has a higher propensity towards extroversion.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that is true. I think people who are more extrovert naturally, because of our societal norms and expectations and what culture and media and everything else dictates, suggests that that's what's going to make a good leader. So you
Mm,
choose them. You have a bias.
yeah.
You choose the people who exhibit more extroversion to do certain roles. And we have to dispel that myth
Hmm.
because we're leaving great talent,
Yes.
great creativity on the table. I have seen amazing leaders in the organizations that I've worked in, one for 25 years, and a really, really strong leader who just had this wonderful way of connecting data and insights and um, actively listening, really truly listening to read between the lines. And if you looked at him, your first impression would be, how rude. He's not paying attention. He's got his head down. Somebody has spent, multiple people at a variety of levels have spent hours putting this 70-page, yes, 70-page deck,
Yeah.
70-page deck together for this forum, for this individual, and they're not even paying attention. I'm sat next to him and he's going through internet pages and he's doodling on a piece of paper at the side of him. And I'm just like, oh, that's really rude. But he is so introvert.
Yes.
It's his coping mechanism.
Right.
And it's his way of hearing. When he's doodling, he's not just mindfully doodling, he's
Right. Yeah.
not listening. It's how his brain works and how he enables himself to stay connected to the conversation. He can read data so quickly. He'd already scanned within the first 2 minutes each slide. And here's what you get from that. It's like, oh, okay. But if we're making this decision like 30 minutes in, he's hardly said a word, he's doodling, he's whatever, right? And 30 minutes into the conversation, he pipes up and he's like, I think that's a really good insight. But if you connect it to the data that was on slide 5, we're now on slide 30. If you connect it to the data that was on slide 5, it doesn't jive. So I'm not sure that we've come to the right solution. Let's have a discussion about that. Now, an extrovert maybe wouldn't have caught that,
Exactly.
wouldn't have had that
Exactly.
insight. But because he was allowed to be himself,
Hmm.
he was able to elevate his power as a leader in the moments that matter to ensure that mindful decisions are made in things that could have big impacts
Yes.
to business. And that to me is it's really thinking about what do you need across your team
Hmm.
and what is it that each individual brings, right?
Yes,
I
absolutely. Getting back to the orchestra,
those times.
what instruments are in your orchestra, right?
Yeah.
It's every single one of them has a role to play in there, but they're not all going to be soloists in every piece, right? And
Mm,
so, but it's very, very important that you
yeah.
hear what their contribution is because they are a part of that collective. I'm
Mm,
actually an extroverted introvert. I was
mm,
incredibly cripplingly shy growing up. And people think because I can do this, and I can also be put on the spot and be asked something during a meeting or a network group, and I can be there. I'm very much in the knowingness and in the now. I am terrible if I have to prepare something and I have to get up and do it. I'll have to do bullet points so that I cannot read it. I'm dyslexic anyway, so I lose Fred. So I have to have the bullet points that kind of bring me back to it. But I'm so engaged with the energies of the now. That's what I tap into. And I
mm,
have to trust that what I need to say will be there. And the bullet points are just to kind of keep me on track. We have to know what is our comfortability because we're all going to get called on at some point. Don't be crippled by the fact that you can't speak like that person. You're not as gregarious as that person. You're maybe not as articulate. Maybe you stumble. But it's okay because you're passionate about what it is you need to say for a reason, and you need to be heard. So don't be afraid to speak out and don't compare. There's no comparison or competing against one another. It's about collaborating and cohesiveness.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. That example that you just shared there, Sarah, was in a pure answer to the question that you asked is, how do an introvert become a leader? It's like you help them realize that there's power in where they
Mhm.
sit.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
meet them where they are, and
Yes.
you help them and amplify, the power in where they place their focus.
Mhm.
They are normally very, very concentrated in one particular area that gives them their confidence.
Mhm.
So meet them there and let
Yes.
that confidence shine. And regardless of whether they are, find it difficult speaking up in environments, when you're asking them a specific question and inviting them in on the
Mhm.
subject that's near and dear to their heart, the thing that where they find their confidence, you don't know the difference.
Yeah. I'm actually going to touch on people with autism. I've done many, many shows on autism from a parent's perspective, from people who are advocates, but also people with autism, from children to people who are older. The one thing that I have found as a continuity between them, incredibly creative and massively focused on the passion of their creation, really, really choosy of who's around them, their vibe tribe, right? And that they can't cope being out there in the static. That's what throws them out. People think they're just socially inept. No, they're very, very inept with the people that are in their vibe tribe. But when they step out into the arena where there's so much static and they can feel those energies and it throws them off kilter, that's where they're not comfortable. So they stay in their arena. So people think that they're withdrawn or they're not able to mix in society. Far from it. They're just very selective of who's around them. So their creativity and their passion can really be focused. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that.
Mm, mm. I do too. And I think it lends right into um, how we uh, how we function in performance management,
Mm, hmm.
right? The
Yes.
example that you just gave was really about placing emphasis on the unique strengths that
Hmm.
those individuals have. And when you can do that, you gain so much more.
Yes.
And there's
Yes.
greater momentum. And actually, the things that they are less good
Mm,
at and able to cope with kind of fall into the distance
mm,
and
mm.
are less amplified because they're not constantly having to think about it.
Exactly.
They're not struggling with that. Well, you've placed me where I can't thrive.
Hmm.
You know, you've brought up something that doesn't sit well with me. And I think that it has a stark reality to, how we motivate our top performers, how
Mm.
we get people to be their best. What we tend to do in performance management systems, and I'm not saying that there's an easy answer. There never is
Yeah.
an easy answer to
No,
anything,
no, you've got to be
right?
flexible again, right?
Exactly.
Insightful. Yeah.
Insightful. But performance management should be more about seeing the unique attributes
Mm.
of an individual that creates a positive outcome. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, I want to be careful about when I say positive outcome. That doesn't mean that there's not falls and there's
Mm.
drops and failures along the way.
Yes.
It's a, you've
Trial
got
and
to
tribulation.
recognize there's a journey to get there.
Yeah.
The positive outcome. And what we tend to do is we ding people.
Mm.
We put them in this, well, you did great at that, but you're really bad over here.
Mm.
Net, net, that puts you at so-so. Well,
Yeah.
how about if you had a conversation which is like, you do this, and if you amplify that just by 5%, a little bit more, the impact is exponentially
Yeah.
greater. If you increase that opportunity that someone needs to work on by just that same
Hmm.
5%, it's non-existent. You don't see it. It's not
Yeah.
going to touch the surface,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Space isn't there. Yeah.
I think there's another point here. Um, when somebody speaks passionately about the vision and what they see,
Mm,
I'm a visioner, I can see the end result. I'm not the blueprinter or the builder, but
mm,
I can share the vision of what I see that needs to be built. But when somebody passionately shares their vision of what they see, the impact that it will have, this invites the builder and the blueprinter to see what it is you're seeing and go, that is great. I see the impact. I maybe can't see the finish line because I'm too much about the building blocks of building it there, but I'm so inspired by your vision. I now see how we can do it. Now you've built a team.
mm. It's teamwork. It really
Yes,
is teamwork,
yes.
right?
Everybody's
I always
forte coming
struggled with
up.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I always struggled with the same thing. And the more I climbed the ladder, the harder it got.
Mm.
There was more of an expectation of, ooh, you've got to keep that communication to these certain guardrails, and the slides that you use have to stay within this format. Well, for somebody who's highly creative and passionate like me, my
Yeah,
arms are flying around. You can see,
exactly.
and then
Exactly.
I can't fit in that
No.
box.
What
You
box?
know,
We don't have a box.
and I'm not good at
Yeah.
putting the words in those parts
Yes.
of the sign, but you have a whole army of people who are.
Yes.
Stop expecting the same from everyone. Take that
Yeah.
passion and that vision and say, I don't care. I don't want it in fancy slides. I don't want it in
Hmm.
here. Just tell me the inspiration. Tell me the vision. Tell me how you think that works. And somebody else who's good at doing that other stuff,
Yes.
I'm going to assign them to put it into the
Yeah.
format that others want to see, that it resonates with in a different way. But don't dampen somebody
Right.
else's
Yeah.
style,
No.
you know?
I say
Yeah.
inspiration begets invitation. When you
Yes.
are inspired, you're invited. You're invited to participate. You're invited to whatever it is. The invitation is there, right? So first and foremost, I do believe a leader needs to be inspiring,
Mm,
because that is the invitation for you to feel you can be a part of it. And if you feel that you can't be a part of it, then you're not feeling you're part of the team, and you're not being spoken to. So when somebody is a visionary, they are the ones that paint the canvas. They
mhm,
show the utopia that is possible. Now that invitation is to everyone else on how. And then that is then, okay, the conductor is now play your piece. How do you see it happening? What do you see is needed? And that beautiful invitation to other people. I want to hear from you. I want you to be a participant in this. Your
mhm,
voice is valued. And I think that's where the great leadership comes through, is when we allow other people to have their little solo moment and what they see and how they see it happening. And sometimes you
mhm,
can get wild ideas out in the stratosphere. That is okay, because it shows people are expanding. Okay, that's wonderful, but not really kind of reality right now. How can we have that same vision and enthusiasm and bring it down to actually applicable use? And then people kind of calm down for that vision and start saying, well, I think, and then we start getting the innovations. But we've got to inspire that
Mhm.
invitation of that illumination from other people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when I was um, researching for writing the book, The Power to Lead. There's three things that form the content of the book, and one of them is my own experiences. Um, One of them is from what I learned from and what we see in characters in the movies,
Mm,
particularly superheroes and from Greek mythology.
mm.
But the
I
last
love that you
one,
incorporate all of those because it's so
yeah,
relatable, right? Yeah.
exactly. Well, even if you don't watch them, you can relate to the story and you
Mm,
can visualize that.
mm.
And it's a demonstration of storytelling which embodies the learnings that we're,
Yes.
trying to connect to. Um, but where I was going with that answer is the inspiration side was, I didn't really find the answer in
Mm,
all of the research that I was doing as what creates that inspiration. And so I decided to reach out to a variety of folks that I've worked with either directly, indirectly. I know them, they have no clue who I am. Um, and ask,
yes.
and to sit down and do interviews with them. And I can tell you when I sat and had that epiphany when I was writing the book and I was going, yeah, but I don't really have really solid data to validate this
Mm,
statement that I'm making. I know philosophers and others are saying it, but what's the data
yeah.
that sits
The
behind
application. Yeah.
it?
Yeah. The root of it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I sent out some messages to people and I'm like, well, I'll probably get, you know, 30% of them will respond and maybe 10% of those will turn into interviews. But just go out there,
Yeah.
just ask.
Just do it.
Yeah, one of the 100% of them responded.
Wow.
100% of them gave an interview. And I was just
Wow.
blown away,
Yes. Yes.
including my biggest inspiration, who was one of those who didn't know me.
Mm,
I knew him. I revered him. He taught me. It's where the ride your own wave
mm,
epiphany came from. Was in one of his town halls that he did, and he was one of the co-founders of Capital One, who I worked with for
mm,
25 years. And Nigel Morris, he did these road shows that were like a 3-day event at the time, and I think it was a year before he left. And he stood up on stage and he was giving, the normal insights into where the business was going, fabulous storytelling. And I sat there the whole time. And I remember that particular one. It was around about 2000, I don't know, 2004, 2003. And I remember sitting there mesmerized
mm.
and picking out keywords. I wasn't hearing the full sentence, but I was
Uh-huh.
picking out
Uh-huh.
keywords. And I felt it's like one of those pictures that you see on those horror movies where the eyes are following you.
Yes.
He was talking directly to
Hmm.
me, in my soul, in my heart, in this auditorium of hundreds, even a
Hmm.
thousand or so people. He was talking
Hmm.
directly to me, and I felt it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the words he said, but I remember feeling inspired enough to be able to take his vision, connect it to me, realize where I fit, and make my own, chart
Mm.
my own path of how I
Yes.
wanted to go forward. And that's where Ride Your Own Wave
Hmm.
came from,
Hmm.
you know?
And what you said about you don't hear all the words, your heart and your soul does, right?
Mm,
That data has already been absorbed, but you're so in the euphoria of the
yeah.
inspiration that there are a word here and a word there, a look here, a pause there that hits with you. And somebody say afterwards, what did you think? Or what did you when he said this? I didn't hear that part, but I heard this part. Right. And it's we hear what is relevant to us in the time. I call that the knowingness, right?
Mhm,
When again we channel the wisdom which resonates truth in our heart and is given to our spirit and action, and for our mind to know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. And that wisdom and that inspiration, which got your heart excited, got your spirit in action, took the words that was relevant to you at that time. If you listen to every single word, sometimes you can get caught up in the data of the information rather than the reason of the information.
Mm, yeah. I think that the power and the commonality that came out of all, and there was a good cross section of
Mm,
different types of leaders out of who I interviewed. It all came down to they didn't try to inspire.
mm,
They're actually very humble
mhm.
in terms of, oh my God, that really hit you.
Yes, yeah,
And they love hearing those stories, and it
yes,
kind of shocks them.
yes.
So, and that says to me, you don't have the intent
Mm,
of inspiring, but the way in which you place attention to connect
mhm,
and relate
mhm.
to your people is important. That was the common thread.
Yes,
The
yes,
common thread was around being a master at connecting and creating relatability
yeah.
through storytelling. Those were the
Mm,
commonalities that really came through in what all inspirational leaders have. They'll deliver it in a different way, and they'll connect in different ways, and they'll create that relatability. Um, but that was their inspiration, is to
mhm.
connect and be relatable, and through storytelling and to reach their audience. Their intent was never to inspire. That was the
Exactly.
output. It was
And,
an
and
output.
and what inspires one may not inspire the other, right? Again, it's what's relatable to us. I call these why shows. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's the passion that when people buy your conviction, your passion of what you're doing, when they feel, I hear you, you're speaking to me in the audience, you're speaking to me, then people want to know more about what you do and how you can help them. But it's that relatability, it's that connection. I have had, which I do I don't really do any of them anymore. They're people who are big public speakers, but in a podcast, they're a grandstander and they don't know how to converse. They don't know how to interact because they're used to being on the stage and this is just another stage for them. And I go, but where is the engagement? You're not inviting me to be a part of it. So therefore, are you inviting your audience to be a part of it? No, you're not going to do question or answer period. But still, people have a question in their head while they're listening to you, right? Or they're inspired by something, and you're so busy up there being big grandstanding, you're not connecting. And also, you've done it for so long now, it's become very robotic. Where is your connection? Where's your heart purpose behind it? I get asked, who do I interview? I go, all those that come from the heart. Because when you come from the heart and you truly believe in what you're doing and why you're doing it and to whom you serve, then you've
Mm,
really got something to give.
mm, mm. It, that's made me really curious. I need to I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
I
Okay.
hope you don't mind. Um, Given how technology is influencing how the generations ahead of us are engaging and interacting with each other, it changes the formula of what it means to connect and be relatable to.
Yes.
So I'm curious, what are you noticing through, the various audiences that you interview? And do you see any data points that kind of say, hey, I can see a change. I can
Yeah.
see there's a correlation between the audiences that find it hard to converse.
Mm. What I'm seeing in the people that I'm interviewing, the common thread is it's people that have taken many paths in life. The expectation path, the CEO, the 2.2 kids, the expensive house, everything that they're slaving for, without realizing they're happy that it has no meaning. And so these people have found their meaning, their meaningful purpose. They've found a calling that something is so important to them. They really want to be of service to people with what they've got. And a lot of people have come out of trauma. I call it, the nudge, nudge, wink, wink, or cosmic two by four because we're not paying attention to the little pivot suggestions, the cosmic two by four comes along. But there's a lot of people I've interviewed in business who are ambassadors that work with people internationally from all over the world. And the beautiful thread that I'm seeing is it's got to mean something. It's got to serve people. It's
Yes.
got to be something that serves people and planet, not profit at the expense of. And it becomes a passion, and people, that's what they're hungry for. Yes,
Mm,
okay, this, I'll make you six figures in 6 weeks. No, people, they look at that and that's a pipe dream. I'm not interested in that. Yes, six figures would be nice, but what, do I have to sell my soul for it? How do I build something that is rooted and sustainable? How do I build something that I'm still interested in 5 years down the road? Right. And so people want that connection, that heart connection. Your why. Why are you doing it? Do I believe you? Can I trust you with my vulnerability? And
mm,
I think that's the essence of what I'm seeing for all the shows. I've been doing it 12 years, 11 years of my own network. I've done about 3,000 shows. And mine are long, as you know, they're not 10 minutes. But this is the common thread and the common denominator I am seeing is people who are very passionate, like yourself, right?
mm,
Who want to make a difference in people's lives because you're passionate about what you see, about the leadership that people can step into, how to be a good leader that encourages and incorporates other people, how to bring the leader, if it's only for a moment in that meeting. They're
mm,
not meant to be the main leader around, but give them that leadership and what they have to say.
mm,
All of that. And it's so important. So from what I get from my audiences, just from the way they follow and is I felt it. I
mm,
felt it. I connected to it. I resonated with it because
mm.
it's speaking to the heart. It's speaking to them as a person and not as just a dollar sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Hope that
There's real,
answers it.
yeah. No, I'm so glad that that I asked that question and you shared what your observations are, because it really does come down to that that depth, that
Mm.
depth of humanity, right?
Yes.
Regardless
Yes.
of what characters show up
Yes.
above the
Mm.
waterline, and
Mm.
that iceberg analogy, it really is about the what lies beneath
Yes.
that
Yes.
depth,
Yes. Yes. People
depth
want
of value.
substance. They want something that they feel is rooted. They
Mm,
want connection. They want relationships. Now, I'm not talking about man, woman, or love relationships. It's a relationship with the person they're doing business with. That
mm,
I would quite happily have you to my dinner table, right?
mm.
It is people they feel they're connected to. There's a friend I had that there was in an MLM. I think I'm dyslexic. Remember, my letters always go the wrong way around. And
Don't
she
worry, I'm the same.
gobbledygook and a giggity gobs. Um, she was, I had three young children, and she kept trying to sell me fake nails. And I'm not interested in fake nails at any time. And certainly with three children, hands in the wash, this and that, where don't, no. And later I found out that our company had brilliant nutritionals and wonderful other things that I did need. She was so enthusiastic about that excited her that she didn't listen to what I needed and then say, I've got something for you, right?
Mm,
It was her excitement. Now, wonderful when you're inspired and you're excited about something, but is it what the other person needs? And the only way of knowing what the other person needs is to listen to them and then
mm,
know if you've got a service or a product that's going to help them.
mm.
Otherwise, it's just like, oh, I really don't want to buy your nails, but I guess I'm obligated to. And we don't want that obligation. It turns us off.
You just highlighted a really useful and powerful leadership tool, which is about that ability to deeply listen.
Hmm.
And I see it corroding more and more
Yes.
in modern corporate environments. And even within smaller organizations as well, there is this time is precious, and it
Hmm.
is,
Hmm.
and therefore uh, there's this expectation of walking to the room. I'm expecting to take away X, Y, and Z, and so you're only listening for
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And you either walk away disappointed
Hmm.
because you didn't get and either or all of
Hmm.
what you were expecting, or you missed
Mm.
the most critical part because you weren't listening, you
Yes.
weren't present.
Mm.
And that's a huge part of what I write about in my book.
Hmm.
You'll notice there is no conformity
Hmm.
to a size of chapters.
Yes.
I battled with editors on that. Well, did you know that this? Yes, I know that that is far larger than any other chapter in the book, and
But
it's
that's
the
what that content was needed to cover, and other things you can cover in a quicker or, a more direct way. So this one size of everything has to fit conformity. No, no.
yeah.
And if it needs more to be said, then more needs to be said.
Exactly. And it's all about this. One of the five forces that I talk about in the book, that when leaders have those five forces in balance, that's when they show up at their best, no matter what the
Mm,
situation, right? And it's this particular one, this center, this nucleus that I'm talking about is your mental force.
mm,
It's your ability to be mindful of your energy, of how you use your mind share, where you place it,
mm,
how you engage, and you're in control. But I can tell you the vast majority of my research and my data that sits behind it, we go through, and 90% of what we go through on a day-to-day basis are not conscious, mindful decisions.
mm,
That's
mm,
frightening.
mm.
That is really, really frightening.
Yes. I think, one thing we've all got
Oh,
in common is time.
yes.
But what we learn as we get older is the value of time, the value of silence, the value of pause, and the value of, like, let's take a moment where,
Mm,
when we're looking at the youth, we're looking at today. No, no, now, what's the resolution? What's now? Yeah, we'll go with that. And
mm,
it's a good brandy, a good wine, a good stew, a good anything else has taken its time to become. And if we don't allow that time and let it sit, let it savor, and then revisit it and go, okay, I've been thinking about that. And I think, such and such, it allows the true ingredients to come out. But if we're
yeah.
so busy and also too shallow and we're not going through to the depth, you're not rooting. And if you're not rooting, you're unstable. Well,
Mhm.
unstable rather.
Yeah. Yeah. That one of the methodologies that I use with my with the executives that I support, well, I don't give them the hey, here's how I'm breaking it down. This is
Right.
the methodology that I'm following, um, which is you first got to find space, and you
Mm,
need space and time each day and within every 60 to 90-minute interval.
hmm.
And if you're not getting that, then you are going to create rework. You're going to increase your stress levels. You're going to make wrong decisions. You're
Hmm.
going to inadvertently insult someone
Yes,
because
send out the wrong message. Yes.
you didn't say the right word, or you
Yes.
said hello to three people and you missed them.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, your head, you are, when you're not present
Hmm.
and your mind is somewhere else, you are not making the
Yeah.
right decisions. You're not engaging in the best way that you can. So you have to practice that when no one's watching.
Hmm. Yes.
You have to practice being comfortable in just being
Yes.
and and
The beauty of
having
nothingness.
and move things aside
Yeah.
and just sit, maybe.
And
You
take
know, for
space.
me it's meditation.
Hmm.
It didn't come easy to me. I still have moments where my mind's racing, where it doesn't come easy to me, but I put priority and routine into making sure
Hmm.
that I do it, because I gain such a lot
Yes.
on the other side. I realized that the 15 things that I was really worried about, yeah, I only really need to do two, and the other ones really don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, but if I hadn't taken the pause,
Yes.
if I hadn't
Yes.
found the space to think clearly, then I wouldn't have realized that. I just kept going,
Hmm.
raising heart rate, building cortisol levels to boil over point,
Hmm.
and that does nobody any good.
No.
And you're there to serve something greater
Yeah,
than yourself. So you
absolutely.
owe it to yourself and then to everybody else around you to do that, is to find your tools. That it only needs to be, two or three things that work for you. Meditation, go for a walk,
Hmm.
stretching, listening to music,
Yes.
doing the gardening. I don't,
Yes.
it really doesn't matter. Find what
Hmm.
gets you in a place where you can be completely absorbed and present in the moment to clear that mind, clear the
Yeah.
cobwebs.
The gift of the present is in the now. And when we're present with self, um, what we're doing is we're releasing the mind, we're releasing the anxiety. There is no clarity, no epiphany at all when you're in a tense state. You're crunching up, everything is running, the what if, what if, what if? And you can have no answer. This is not a space to do it. So whether you are just in discovery of how to do something, what the next step is, or whether you're facing something that, is maybe a little crisis, you have to take the time to pause, to center, to come back into yourself, to remove yourself from that environment, and then go back into your presence. And then
Mm,
from that presence, the clarity, the breath, the calmness in which to see what to do next is there. If we don't do that, we will always add another wrong decision on top of a wrong decision.
absolutely. Amen, lady. Um, this is always also you can't, there's sometimes where you can't walk away, and
Mm,
especially in leadership
yes.
organization, you can't go away and find that space. But because you've practiced it
Hmm.
so much in the times where it didn't matter,
Hmm.
that when there's a moment that does, and you're watching everybody else with running around like headless chickens, frenzy everywhere, uh, it's down to you, and you're probably the only person because you're
Hmm.
practiced in it to go, I just want everybody to just, let's just all sit down
Hmm.
and take,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Let's be, let's find some moment.
Chill.
Raising the
Yes.
ground
Yeah.
is going to stop us from really understanding what the true root cause of this problem is. And then we might make some wrong decisions. So I'm going to give everybody permission in here, including myself, we're going to take 5 minutes. We're just going to decompress.
Mm.
We're going to maybe laugh. you know, we're just going to find our calm and we're going to find a space.
Yeah.
And then I want us to look around the room and go, for the conversation we're about to have, do we have the right people in the room? Because what we
Mm.
don't want to do is waste our time.
Yes.
Yeah, we can have conversations, but if all we're having a conversation of is if and if then if but,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
right people to know what the real answer is are not present, it's a waste. You
It
just
is.
waste time.
It is. There's such a value in just take a breath, right?
Mhm.
Pause. When children are having a fit, is kind of let them have the fit. Now take a deep breath, release, release. You feel better now? Well, we have that little tantrum 2-year-old in ourselves as well when things aren't going well and the frustration. We all go through it, the anxiety. And then that is the time to remove yourself from the situation and take a breath. And
Yeah.
some unfortunately for some, it's go out and have a cigarette. Prefer you don't. I prefer you go out and do some deep breathing in nature. But wherever, even if it's going to the bathroom, sitting on the loo for a few minutes, take a breath wherever you can, right? Recenter yourself because it's so important. We're going to say the wrong things. We're going to set the wrong vibe, the wrong tone if we stay in the angst, because that angst becomes anger and frustration. And that's what you're sharing out there, wrong frequency. So, especially as a leader, maybe before you tell everyone else to take a break and say, I'll be back in a moment, you go out, take a break, then come back calmly and say to everyone else, let's bring it down, let's everyone take a break, and then get everybody back on the same frequency. But when you've got so many, like, how the orchestra before it starts, everybody's tuning up. You've got going on, right? And then all of a sudden they start and they're in beautiful harmony, right? So it is about that chaos and taking it back into harmony. And a good leader knows how to do that and knows who to call on to be
Yeah.
the general support in that arena to help others find their center and bring it back down.
Mm. Um, One of the simplest tools that I can't even remember who I got this tip from. It certainly wasn't mine, but it's one that I really, really enjoy using is you know, if you can't walk out of a room to take that calm, always make sure you walk in with a bottle of water or
Mm.
something in your hand to drink. Because when you need that moment and everyone's staring at you, you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking,
Mm-hmm.
not ready to open my mouth yet because it's going to come out wrong. I've got to
Yeah.
find the words or whatever it may be. Or you want to create calm in the room
Mm.
before you begin. You can ask everybody to sit down, and then instead of taking this pause where everyone's thinking, what the hell's she doing?
Mhm.
Is she about to cry? Is she
Yeah.
whatever
Or
whatever
fire us.
vision they're bringing
Yeah.
up in their head, as to, oh no, what's going to happen next? You just take a sip of
Mm.
the water. And the sip of the water gives you enough time to be present. It allows other people to release judgment and not start creating a dialogue in their head. Not because they're bad people, it's just our natural human
Yes,
nature to do
yes.
that, right? And very many of us are uncomfortable with silence. So
Yeah.
when there is a bit of silence, it's like oh,
Yeah.
somebody say something. And
Anticipation. This is going
like,
to happen. That's going to happen. Yes.
let's just be quiet
Yeah.
for a minute. And so if you're taking a drink of water or
Mm.
and then it takes you a little bit to put it down and organize it, and maybe you want to go and situate yourself at the whiteboard or whatever
Mm.
it is. It's just enough to give you and others in the room time to just focus in on the conversation that you're about to have. But the action of drinking
Mm.
some water actually is proven scientifically to be the same as taking those three deep breaths when you're feeling
Mm.
stressed
Mm-hmm.
and bring your heart rate down and the
Mm-hmm.
cortisol levels down. So feeling stressed, feeling overwhelmed, want some calm, want some space, have a bottle of water and take a few sips.
It's a, and it's one that is, I mean, if I'm doing a public speak and I prefer small arenas, I don't like big things. I like more intimate and then question answer. But what I actually have everyone do is I stand up and everybody takes some deep breaths, 3 deep breaths, let it out and say hello to the people on either side of you. And what I find, it kind of sets people up in the right frequency, releases whatever they came into the room with, and now
Yeah.
we're ready to start. And now sometimes you can do that at a boardroom if the people know that's what the boss loves to do. All right, but the subtle one is the glass, is taking the water, putting
Yeah.
the cap back on, shifting around, getting ready. And then everybody's now calming down in anticipation. What's he going to say instead of what's he going to say? Right. So I think it is setting the stage, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
We all need that. So,
Yeah.
leadership is so very important. You've put it all together wonderfully in this book, which will help people actually discover what kind of leaders they are, what kind of leaders are in the world, how to lead, which is wonderful. But whom do you serve? Well, who is your clientele? And how do they reach out to you on whatever level they're at?
Yeah. Um, My clientele, my audience are leaders, particularly in the financial services industry, but it can be leaders in any size organizations. But I typically work with those in financial institutions at the executive or C-suite positions. Um, those are who I serve. And to get in touch with me, the easiest way to do that is to go to my website, which is Doors Effect, DOOREFFECT, doorseffect.com. And on there, it will lay out for you the services. On each page, there is a way to get in contact with me, put time on my calendar, And the best thing is for this conversation, I've created a pop-up. So take note of that pop-up when it comes up, because it gives you the opportunity to read chapter one of my book for
Yes.
free. So click on that and enjoy chapter one. And hopefully it compels you enough and inspires you enough to be able to go and read the entire book.
I actually have that link here on your show page, which so people can do that in your LinkedIn as well. And I think it's a wonderful idea to get people engaged. I love the graphic, the head with the lightning going on, the power to lead, how to optimize your energy to thrive in leadership. And really, when we look at it, every single thing in and around us is energy. Every single thing has a signature, right? Has a particular tone, and it's when we decide to tune in harmoniously to each other's vibration, each other's frequency, that's when we can really start listening and really start get creative and getting things done. But as you said, it's rather like, that when the conductor, or everybody's tuning up and the conductor goes, tut, 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 and everybody
Mhm.
knows, stop tuning, they get themselves positioned right, and now they're ready. And you always notice there's a pause before they start. Everybody's in position, everybody's holding breath, and then the conductor starts. And really, that is what it's all about, isn't it? That leadership to know how to bring everybody into the one level vibration, one frequency, and then
Mhm.
how to bring out each of those instruments harmoniously that benefits and crescendos that piece, because that's really what real leadership is, inspiring the person to open up their flowers and really bloom.
Love it. You said it so beautifully. Thank you.
Again, I hope that we today kind of changed people's perception of leadership and that yes, it takes a lot of responsibility. Yes, you need to know a lot of what's going on, but don't be intimidated. There are some natural born leaders. There are some people that become leaders and never thought the leadership was inside of them. And it is, if there are so many different types of leaders, and yes, there is the onus of responsibility to whom you are serving, but when you become warm and it's from your heart, and you believe in your leadership and you're inviting everyone else to be a part of that, you see them, you see the value in them, you want them to have a voice. That's when that true leadership really does shine, isn't it?
It certainly does. And what I love about this is what you discover out of this book
Mm.
is is yours and
Yes,
only yours
yes.
to keep. It takes you on that journey. It gets you thinking, it
Mm.
gets you connecting, and it gets you deciding the type of leader that you want to be and where your power is and how to optimize it. And then I leave space at the book for you to start writing your leadership legacy based on what you've learned. It's not about ending a book, it's about you starting yours.
Exactly. Again, that inspiration, that invitation. And now it's your turn, right? And I always say with these shows, they listen, learn, and apply. There's always something. Maybe it's one thing throughout the entire show that you got, right? And it's the water technique, the other inspirations that you've had for your life, the understanding what leadership is, or realizing that even though you are an introvert and you prefer not to be leading, it's okay for your voice to be heard. At that moment, you are a leader in your expertise, and that is important for you to speak out. It doesn't mean you have to take on the whole leadership, right? But we've got to be able to communicate what it is we are leading. So whatever anybody's got out of this today, it's listen, learn, and apply. Try it out. Get the book, read the book. What does it mean to you? What I always find with books is whether you're reading it from beginning to end or whether you start at a chapter that you feel that calls to you, it's always a revisiting. What do I need to know today? And you open it up to a page or a chapter, and there's always something there that said, oh gosh, I needed to know that today. So a book keeps on giving. It never ever dies. That wisdom is always there. You come back and revisit it. You're in a different state of being, and now you see it from that information from a different point of view. So that's why a book is so important to have on your bookshelf that you draw and keep reading and keep looking. Thank you so much for being here today. This has been wonderful. Leadership is so very important in our world, in everything that we do. And, especially the financial sector. There's things that are changing left, right, and center all the time around the financial business. And a lot more compassion and a lot more ethics and a lot more invitation is coming in that financial world where it isn't all about money and bottom line. It's about human currency and the enrichment of humans. So they all may become enriched both in bank and in person. So I love what's happening out there and what's changing. And I love that you're a part of it and leading up those leaders. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Until next time, folks, remember, there's a leader inside of you, even if you're an introvert. Or maybe there isn't a leader inside of you, but how do you communicate with your leader? How do you interact with your leader? How do you be heard? All of these things are in the book there. All of these things have been in the show today. Do not hold yourself back. We need you to step forward. You and your information is absolutely valid and appreciated. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.